I had to add this new beginning to my video because something got confirmed that's really crazy, so let's get into that and then we'll get into the rest. So the Odyssey is being seen by people right now. Leaks are leaking everywhere, and Christopher Nolan's epic is already being lambasted because of one huge crucial change. This section of the video will have spoilers. If you don't want that, please go to this timestamp on screen for the rest of the video and all the other news that I share later on. Okay, you're still watching this part? Well, Chris Gore, film thread, a friend of the channel, saw the Odyssey early. He's mixed on it. But there was an important thing that he revealed while he was on with Nerdrotic that changes everything. I'll just play you the clip and then we'll talk, so please watch this.
There's no way you could go, this is just a cameo and a pity casting for Elliot Page now. You can't. This was deliberately bringing in a character from outside the story to make that character, who isn't in it very much, prominent to the story.
Oh, no. Sinan is very prominent.
Oh.
Seen in flashbacks, seen at the beginning. Killed in the beginning, but when they go to Hades, it's Sinan that Odysseus speaks to.
Not the ghost of Achilles.
Correct.
They replaced the ghost of Achilles with Sinan. So essentially, Elliot Page plays Achilles.
Is a proxy for
Achilles.
Character.
As you just saw, Chris Gore confirmed that Elliot Page's character in the Odyssey, who was named Sinan, is not actually Sinan at all. But in actuality, Sinan is Christopher Nolan's shoehorned alteration of none other than Achilles, but in his version of the Odyssey. You see, originally Odysseus in the story meets Achilles when Odysseus reaches Hades, hell in Greek mythology in case you don't know what that is. But you see, in this version of the Odyssey, Sinan, played by Elliot Page, dies during the opening parts of the movie during the sacking of Troy. Sinan is essentially, as Odysseus puts it in Nolan's version, a sacrifice that was necessary by the Greek army so that they could infiltrate the inner walls of Troy itself via the Trojan horse. Anyway, so Sinan passes away, and in the original version of the Odyssey, Odysseus meets Achilles in the underworld after all this happens. They share their stories, and Achilles famously tells Odysseus he would rather have lived a servant to a poor master than rule as king over the dead in the underworld, because he regrets how short his life was and how he was ended before he could really truly live. It's a beautiful moment, right, where a mythic hero unmasked by Homer reveals his regrets to the main character of the Odyssey. It conveys how the tragedy of death waits for us all, and for those who die young, that end is even more terrifying. It's a great theme in the Odyssey, but you see in Nolan's version, Achilles doesn't exactly exist. Instead, Sinan replaces Achilles' place in this version. And the clips have leaked online, which I saw already, and I can confirm that yes, this is real. Obviously, I can't show it, but Sinan laments Odysseus when they meet in Hades, blaming him for sending Sinan to their death, knowing full well that they wouldn't survive the attack on Troy, but Odysseus tells Sinan that he needed Sinan to believe that they would survive even though he knew Sinan wouldn't, because he needed that sacrifice to ensure that the battle went the way that they needed it to. Nolan effectively replaces Achilles with Sinan, a character, by the way, that never actually originally existed in the story. This also becomes a huge crux of the Odyssey as a film too, and Nolan then utilizes it to paint Odysseus as a complicated, almost villain-like figure who wasted this young soldier's life for his old wartime efforts. You may have seen the scene in the trailer where Elliot Page is covered in black dirt. Yeah, that's pretty much what Sinan looks like when they're talking to Odysseus during that scene in Hades. So technically speaking, Nolan replaced Achilles' role in the story with Sinan on purpose to change the story, but by proxy, Sinan now fulfills, ultimately, the same exact plot point of regret and so on for Odysseus, but does it in a new way. Some may say that doesn't mean Sinan is Achilles, yes, in a sense, but it does mean in the grand scheme of things that Nolan replaced Achilles with Elliot Page's character to fulfill the same idea nevertheless. And also, by the way, Odysseus calls Sinan unironically in the movie the greatest soldier he's ever known. And it's a baffling decision, that's real, and one thing I think many people are going to attack. I don't blame Elliot Page for the role. I mean, the movie begins with Sinan running across the sand, and you can see Elliot Page in their Greek armor, and it just looks ridiculous. I can't show any of this, obviously, but my god, dude, it is baffling, okay? Incredible how none of the reviews spoke about this because they're afraid to speak out against Nolan and film critics, but the fact that this was kept hidden until the last minute proves how far they are willing to go. So no, Sinan is not technically Achilles, but Achilles' entire plot and idea is effectively repurposed and repackaged with a far more modern audience version starring Elliot Page, and likely Elliot will get an Oscar nom because, well, it's Hollywood, but either way, it's still baffling. I just wanted to let you know that, so now let's get back to the rest of the video as originally intended, but for now, all I can really say is, wow, Nolan. You really went there, didn't you? You thought we wouldn't notice. This makes things way worse, but hey, at least you can say you own the chuds or something, I guess, right? Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey has become the next battleground for all sorts of nonsense, but there's one very obvious obvious takeaway from all of this. If you don't like the Odyssey, it's because you're against progress. You're against people who don't look Greek wanting to tell a Greek story by stripping it of what makes it Greek by shoehorning in every other ethnicity instead. What are you, a racist? How dare you? According to Christopher Nolan, the backlash is irrelevant, but IGN thinks that if you push back against this movie, it's because for one reason. You're racist, and also probably transphobic too. Here's the article I'm referencing on screen here. Also, I can't use Odyssey movie footage in my video, otherwise Nolan and his goons will airstrike me from orbit and send in their HR department to flay me alive. So we're going to use Assassin's Creed mostly. Cool, alright, but like I said, IGN is not happy about the backlash, as they say here. On the other side are those who feel much of the backlash boils down to thinly veiled racism and transphobia masquerading as calls for historical accuracy. You don't say, IGN. What are you implying then? That we, the audience, the actual bedrock that keeps godforsaken sites like yours alive? Or movies even being able to play in theaters operable are all misogynistic racists according to your own ilk? I can't believe this. IGN of all people. Supporting the current thing in the year of our Lord 2026. Unbelievable. No, there's no way. It's not like they've done the exact same thing with every other game, movie, or show in existence too or something, right? IGN are shills. I mean, it's as the old saying goes, you can't spell ignorant without IGN after all. And they want to keep access to everything imaginable, so they are gonna dig their knees as deep as they have to into the sand. If it means Hollywood will just keep letting them swallow that gravy in full, God, that is an image, alright. As IGN puts it here, this backlash is being led by, oh my god, right-wing people. Oh, the horror. You mean the mass majority of people out here who voted in that last election and won? Somebody, please, think of IGN. The racism. Yeah, it's not racist to look at the Odyssey and go, something feels off about this one. Why is Helen of Troy that one lady when Greece was most definitely, especially during that time period, nothing close to anything but just Greek people? Seeing Lupita Nyong'o as Helen of Troy is like that one meme of Family Guy where Peter is standing with the soldiers but he's in like a clown costume. Like, gee, I wonder who's out of place here. Oh man, I just can't put my finger on it. It's not racist to point that out. We both know if Hollywood made a movie about some African mythology or story, everybody in that movie would be black. They would even go as far as to make all the production people behind the scenes black too. The director would be also. And every single news outlet would send their black reporters to do interviews so they would look as supportive as possible, and we know that I'm right on that, 100% dude. Yet when Greek people and the right-wingers, again, normal people, they just use that term because it eloquently conveys everything they disagree with in a turn that just causes their brainwashed weirdo audience to activate their sub 85 IQ brains into crazy mode. Yeah, I guess I can see why this is happening then. Nolan did reply to the backlash where he said this comes with the territory, but look, these conversations that happen before people see the film, they're always irrelevant because no one having them knows what the film actually is yet. No, Nolan, we do know what the movie is, because you see, we have these things called, what are they called? Right, eyes, brains, ears, and this thing called an IQ that is within normal societal levels actually. You see, we know that it's about the Odyssey. How do we know that? Well, if you look at the title, it says the Odyssey, so our brains are going to go, oh, so this is about Homer's epic, right? So we're going to expect a movie that honors what the Greek people wrote, conveyed, and, looked like. But when you look under the hood of this movie's trying to trick you into thinking, no, seriously, guys, this car you're buying here, it is a Lamborghini. Just ignore that we put the Lamborghini body on a Volkswagen Jetta. Stop looking under the hood. You're racist. Right here, officer. Yes, this one right here. These people watching this video, they're all racist. All of them. The horror. How dare they want, I don't know, authentic representation in 2026. These people are just, what are we calling them again? Right-wingers? Am I doing that right, IGN? What am I missing? Do I need a Black Lives Matter t-shirt on too while I'm saying these things so that I'm seen as an ally? How do I gain the access like you? Just do that? All right, okay. But what's that also? I got to ignore all pattern recognition and accept any slop coming my way no matter how stupid or baffling it is? What do I look like to you? I don't work it kind of funny. That's what they do. But look, we're not going to accept this slop no matter how much cologne you spray on it or how many A-list people you try putting in it, because I don't care what actors feel. They're actors. They're chameleons by trade. You can't take anything someone who pretends for a living has to say at face value. These people would unironically sway any way the flag blows if it means they were keeping their careers. I guarantee you, if wearing the SS uniform hitting the salute was politically correct today, Matt Damon and Lupita Nyong'o would be throwing that hail until their shoulders came out of their sockets. You gotta realize that a lot lot of these people, they don't really have morals, right? They're kind of like the companies or websites like IGN. They just do whatever they're told to do, okay? They follow directions. That's in the job title. So now all I'm left to play with is Helen of Troy's actor constantly saying how women are amazing, or morons like John Leguizamo telling me how Greek people should feel while he victim shames you into buying a ticket. Unfortunately, I can't show you the now viral clip of John Leguizamo on the red carpet because it's done by Variety. And in the past, in case you don't know, Variety has been known to copyright videos if you show their clips because they're babies wearing suits who cry when you criticize them. So I can do the next best thing. Here's a post with what John, guys feel sorry for me please, Leguizamo said about representation. Let me read you what he said. It's always been a battle. Hollywood is not the most accepting place, even though we Latin people are 30 to 40% of the box office and a third of streamers. We're the most aggressively underrepresented group in America. That's hilarious. That's actually rich coming from a guy who looks like he's melting in the sun. But no, John, that's not how that works at all. You don't get to stand there and act oppressed when you're being paid millions to LARP in your Greek movie about representation of all things. Dude, you're playing a guy in a movie who isn't Latin like yourself in the first place. How can you stand there and cry about representation when you yourself are doing the exact thing you're criticizing Hollywood of doing themselves? Oh, we're so oppressed. Look at me. I'm John Leguizamo. I'm the guy who played clown in the 90s Spawn movie, which he was good in because John plays a great clown because he's stupid. But you can't cry about this stuff, man. You're doing the exact thing that you're railing against. You took a role from someone who deserved it because you know people. You can't cry about this. As we both know, if some Latin story got told John, he would be the first person to throw his body like a human shield in the way and say, Hollywood better hire only Latin actors or this movie's racist now. He'll say that as he cashes in his check for the Odyssey as he continues to feel oppressed while living in the most free nation in the history of the world, where he has actual amendment rights, where he's allowed to say whatever he wants without being jailed, unlike many other places in the world, mind you. But just don't tell John that. He might start crying and call you racist because you dare to pose his flimsy defense here. But God, man, actors are kind of stupid, aren't they, man? There's a reason why ancient Rome looked at actors and treated them as being below even the workers who did the, let's say, unsavory things. Maybe not all actors are dumb. Maybe there's some of them out there who actually have a brain between their ears, but John's brain left him long ago like his integrity did too. I can't imagine living my life believing that I'm a victim when I get paid millions to star in a movie like John does. Dude, you are not oppressed. But you know what else is hilarious? So the Odyssey had a media press tour where the cast goes from a select city to city promoting the movie. Anyways, look at the cities that they're going to here. London, Paris, Mumbai, New York, Beijing, and Seoul. Wow, that's a lot of cities nowhere near Greece at all if I know my geography correctly. So you're telling me you got a whole movie made in Greece about Greek stuff and y'all couldn't even stop by the homeland of where your story was being told for your press tour even. It's like everything the Odyssey is about is just Nolan and his friends just roundhouse kicking Greek people over and over with disrespect into their necks. Because if that wasn't disrespectful enough, what if I told you the Odyssey was also made using subsidies from the Greek government to film it too? Look here, Nolan's production got 6.5 million euros from the Greek government to film that movie over there. The crazy part is that money comes directly, who would have thought, from taxpayers in Greece. Meaning the Greek people unknowingly funded their own stories and art to be co-opted by people who weren't Greek to tell their story while not representing them as a people anywhere in the film, and especially not in the main cast. And that's okay, really. And now they want to be rewarded for this and have people pay to see it. Honestly, if you go see the Odyssey, that is your call. But for me, this just reeks of media manipulation and honest disgust to me too. I know the movie's still going to make money, probably number one and still be a success. It's Nolan after all, but that's not the point here. Just because people go to see things doesn't mean the quality is good. Of course, right now the media is going to be running damage control like crazy for the Odyssey because to them, they need a desperate win in the war with the fans, like really bad. And when any film critic speaks out against the Odyssey, people get really mad at them like they need to follow a script. Take Edward Douglas here, who critiques films. As seen here, he says that the Odyssey is not a masterpiece. It has issues, and he believes that many reviewers are ignoring the problems, which yeah, I have no doubt. Immediately though, someone attacks him, of course, as seen here. Edward, who saw the film, says the movie has a muddy sound mix, which friends of the channel Film Threat also said in their review of the movie too. Actually, according to Film Threat, the Odyssey has really terrible sound mixing, and it's very, very hard to hear what some actors are saying because the audio is completely out of whack. That's what they said. But why aren't the reviews saying that that's a problem? Well, because they really can't. They know this movie is practically engineered engineered in a laboratory from the parts of many living things, and they don't want to be eaten by their so-called co-workers in the industry. So they would rather lie and just say, no, yeah, it's good, because to challenge that narrative is to be flayed alive for having an actual opinion, and well, we can't have that, can we? No. You gotta follow the class, dear viewer. Why are you trying to be your own person? We specifically taught you to not do that, otherwise you're a bigot now. What's also dumb is the movie was designed for IMAX, yet apparently the only way you can actually see the full picture that Nolan filmed, that can only be viewed in about 40 movie theaters in the world right now. Look at this photo for a reference. The actual movie is in the full image. You won't see that unless you have access to one of those 40 theaters on the planet. Otherwise, you're getting the nerfed version. Great job, guys. Let's limit your movie to its full scope to a handful of theaters and not the overwhelming thousands of screens instead that are available. Does any of this stuff surprise me? I mean, it would, maybe like 10 years ago, but now all I can do is laugh at it because it's all so stupid. What's interesting to me is how the media like IGN said, we're all racist if we don't support this movie. But if you do cast people who are accurate to the source material, well, the media instead tries to tear you into pieces. Take, for example, this article from the BBC where Andy Serkis had to defend his almost all-white cast for the next Lord of the Rings movie, The Hunt for Gollum. I promise this ties to the Odyssey because remember, guys, the Odyssey is allowed to be diverse despite being a Greek story because it has mythology in it. So Lord of the Rings is basically the same thing, right? Except look at how the media portrays the decision for white actors. The BBC said this: however, the previous Lord of the Rings films made before colorblind casting became common had almost entirely white lineups, and so far, his film looks like being the same. Every major cast member announcement to date has been white. Jamie Dornan, Anna Taylor-Joy, Kate Winslet, Leo Woodall, as well as the returning stars including Elijah Wood and Sir Ian McKellen. The question is, why? Why indeed, BBC? It's interesting how this upsets you, but the Odyssey doesn't. Didn't you guys in your ilk tell us that it's fine to cast whoever you want if the story isn't real in the first place? So then why is this suddenly a problem to you? What's wrong with Lord of the Rings, a obviously fictional story, adhering to what the creator Tolkien said back then? Why are you offended by this but not what Nolan did with the Greeks? But look at how the BBC frames it then. Let me read this for you. Andy Serkis nods his head before answering, and it is clear this is a subject he has given a lot of thought. Tolkien himself was influenced a lot by Norse mythology. There's a lot of that feeling. The Shire feels very much like a very white, you know. He tails off and pauses before continuing with greater certainty. They're not very concerned about what goes on beyond the borders of the Shire, but they know they don't want people coming in. Based, by the way. Yes, there have been criticisms, he says, acknowledging arguments that are now almost a quarter of a century old. Oh, okay, so it's problematic because Lord of the Rings, as the movies, are a quarter of a century old now, is it? Remind me again how old the Odyssey is. Oh, what's that? Hundreds of years, even thousands, before anything like the internet existed or cars or even planes did? But that's fine to race swap and change, right, BBC? After all, it's not a real story anyway, so what's the big deal? Why are you offended? But Lord of the Rings being white is wrong? Well. It's almost as if these idiots talk out of both sides of their mouths depending on what offends them or something. Andy Serkis ends with this. This particular film is somewhat acknowledging that, but we don't think we will be doing a politically correct, just casting for the sake of casting and ticking boxes version of the film, so it's only where relevant, basically. I gotta say, based of Andy Serkis to say that openly, because that's exactly what Nolan did with Odyssey. He did unironically cast for the sake of casting and ticking those boxes versions to a T. I mean, he did. You can't deny that. Why is Odysseus his right-hand man a guy from India? None of that makes any sense. When did Indians have to do with Greeks in their plays? And why isn't the BBC complaining about how Nolan is disrespecting Greek history while trying to burn Andy over the fire because he wants his Lord of the Rings movie to look like the other ones that he starred in as Gollum, by the way, too? It's blatant hypocrisy. They know that it is. You can't fool me, you morons. It's very obvious you're trying to push something into actualization to really just do two things, okay? The first is normalizing it, trick the world into believing the Odyssey was never a Greek story to begin with, but one where it was made by all creeds and people, kumbaya and all that, when it really wasn't, right? And secondly, and this is key, it's about demoralizing you as a populace. It's about bringing you down, making you accept things. The more you keep allowing them to pile in your plate, the full you're gonna look. Just ignore the fact that everything in front of you reeks like garbage and they're laughing as you scoff it down for sustenance. I'm not sorry, okay? This does reek of normalization and I don't like it. Call me whatever buzzword you want to. It's not going to change my opinion that Nolan, Hollywood, all of these people, they need a reality check. And if people reward this sort of thing, well, then you're gonna get what you tolerate. IGN, despite running damage suppression for Nolan's quote, new flick, they gave it, as you can see here, an 8 out of 10. They said the movie has problems, it modernizes the story, which is a huge red flag, and that it's not a masterpiece. That's interesting that you would call anyone who says they're not interested in seeing this thing a raging racist and then turn around and admit, yeah, it's not perfect or a masterpiece. So you are just protecting it for access reasons then, aren't you, IGN? I mean, you are. You were just saying things because you want us to fall in line with you when nobody will. This is why I can't take IGN seriously. Nobody is doing that. No wonder places like them, or anyone who came from there that went off to find their own things to do, still end up just being game-sucking journalists no matter how much they try to rebrand it. These people crave their legitimacy. They want to be considered the moral arbiters of their time, yet all they keep doing is digging those knees, fellas, deeper and deeper into the sand. Oh, please, Hollywood, please, I'll keep telling them they're wrong. Just please keep sending me the swag bags and the interviews and bringing me to those premieres. You say jump, I say how high, right? And IGN, that's your trained monkey. And look, I get it. IGN at this point will do anything to get their bananas, won't they? But the funny part is the more they suck off the Hollywood guys, the more we all tend to realize that these people don't, and they never really will speak for you ever again. They sort of hate us. I mean, it's pretty obvious. How can a public website like IGN, which relies on its viewership to stay alive, feel comfortable to sit there unironically from their high chair and call their audience racist for not wanting to support a movie like this? And that's okay. That made it past your editors. Well, of course it is, because it all swings back to what I said before. It's all about, let's say it together, class, normalization and demoralization. You will accept the race swaps. You will accept the modernizing of something that didn't need it in the first place. You will do all these things to a T, because life and how you think is apparently akin to a 5th grade class quiz on philosophy these days. Yet, if you pick any of the wrong answers on the paper, we don't just fail you, we also ostracize you and publicly humiliate you too, and get you blacklisted for good measure. Come on, people, open your eyes, for crying out loud. They're laughing at you. They're drinking their champagne while eating the caviar, going, look at these commoners. Look at them running to the movie theater to see their stories get ruined by us again. Look how they open their wallets. Oh, look, that one even bought IMAX tickets. Make sure to get some popcorn and a big pop too, so you can slurp down your daily sugar intake in a single paper cup. You're a good consumer. You're a very good consumer. Some would say the best kind of consumer. And once the movie succeeds, which it probably will, because the masses are about as individualistic as ants at this point, Hollywood will just set their sights on any other story made in a European setting, or even not, that adheres to the ways of white European ethnic culture in some way. And they will just do the same thing again, right? Wow, I can't wait for 2029's The Divine Comedy by Dante to get absolutely raked over the coals, and for some director to turn that also into another story that changes everything and modernizes it for the modern audience too. I mean, we did the Odyssey, why not go do the Iliad? Why not, right? It's right there. They accepted this one, so why not that one too? Maybe they can take the 8th century story of Beowulf and turn that Scandinavian hero into an African guy. Because who cares if Beowulf isn't real anyways, right? The Scandinavians aren't even white people if you believe their government's propaganda that they try to push on the masses already. If you don't remember, the Swedish government pushed a documentary big budget series called History of Sweden, and here's how the Swedish government portrayed the so-called Swedes. Look at this girl on screen. Ah yes, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, fair-skinned Swedish people. Yup, that's definitely an ancient Swedish if I ever saw one. Let's see what the ancient Swedish man looked like in that same series here on screen too. Yup, definitely a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Swedish guy too, alright? What? Why are you laughing? No, seriously guys, that's how Swedish people looked like before anything. Stop being a bigot, or we're gonna throw you in the gulag. Can't wait for the modern King Arthur retelling where he's actually a black woman this entire time. Maybe we can do Hercules next, but it's Elliot Page as Hercules, because why not? I mean, don't even stop there, Hollywood. I mean, you can tell the story of, and I'm always going to butcher this story's name, but the Nibelungenlied. I always said that totally wrong, but it's a German story about the dragon slayer Siegfried. And I mean, come on, Siegfried, dragon slayer in Germany? Come on. It's a perfect role for Lupita Nyong'o. It's almost as if it was written for her specifically. I mean, Disney has already taken European folklore stories like The Little Mermaid and changed it for a modern audience, so unfortunately, every potential story I just mentioned will be at some point ruined too. If they can do it to the Odyssey, one of the oldest stories in Western culture that survived for something like thousands of years, they can definitely ruin everything else too. Well, I should say European stories. If it's anyone else's story, it will absolutely be respected, but it's because Hollywood specifically hates European culture. Honestly, without the Odyssey, you don't really have anything. It shaped what storytelling was, right? Stuff like even Tolkien or Shakespeare, that all lends itself back to Homer's epic. But the problem with the changes and how Nolan went about it asks another question, which is, when do these changes stop serving the story and start serving something else entirely? Which is kind of exactly what it feels like like to me, because I think Hollywood underestimates why people are so protective of this. The Odyssey is a part of European cultural inheritance. These works, they endured because generations of people found worth and power inside of them. They're connected to a particular time, space, and worldview, even as their themes do, as well as love and loss and perseverance and identity. Those remain universal. That's why these things are so beloved. They're doing this to demoralize you. Maybe if this movie got announced 15 years ago, it would be a different story. But these days, Hollywood has spent years just eroding the trust of everybody involved. All we've seen is most things we love becoming divisive and ruined. Most franchises are in the gutter because of Hollywood's actions, and another thing is undeniable, that people in general are also now just approaching these new movies and adaptations with caution instead of excitement. That's not something that the YouTubers did. It's what the industry, as in films or games or TV, did themselves. They didn't just lose trust suddenly. It was done over ruining everything the way that they did and then wanting us to accept it for what they want us to think it is. And again, when you add in the added nonsense that is entertainment access journalism, there's another common perception among people that parts of entertainment media are spending more time responding to online criticism than asking why that criticism exists in the first place. This is why YouTubers exist, because these people who are paid to review these movies or games are also in bed with the very people that are making them. That doesn't mean that every YouTuber or something is right 100%, no, but it does mean it's now fallen on YouTubers or streamers or people on Twitter even to now speak to people because Hollywood is leaving them feeling unheard on purpose. Hollywood should probably ask themselves why that is. With the Odyssey, it's very simple. Most adaptations should begin with respect. This doesn't feel like it was. They're not asking what made this story survive for thousands of years, are they? No, they're instead asking, how do we make this story resemble every other blockbuster currently so that we fall in line with them both on a spiritual and philosophical level so we can get awards? Because those timeless stories don't become timeless by accident, okay? They resonate because they spoke to universal aspects of the human experience. When filmmakers build on those foundations, audiences usually respond. They show up, they buy the tickets. But when the viewers feel those foundations are being overshadowed by contemporary trends or marketing priorities like it is right now, that's often where skepticism begins, because who can really blame them? So IGN, Hollywood, whoever can keep fighting the audience, calling them bigots, this or that. It doesn't matter. The pattern continues because they've learned nothing. They don't treat skepticism as feedback anymore. They just treat it like it's opposition. So people wait, they show concern, and then they're accused of overreacting or being bigots for it. But when millions get spent and wasted, it's not healthy for anyone. The Odyssey is not some corporatized story. It's a cultural one. The Greek people even discuss in their schools to this day. It's studied by historians for a reason. Hollywood may have the privilege of adapting such stories, but make no mistake, they do not own this story. People aren't just evaluating a movie this time. They're evaluating how one of humanity's oldest stories is being interpreted for a modern audience, and many do not like what they're seeing. Maybe the Odyssey becomes one of the defining films of the decade, I don't know, but regardless of how this movie turns out, the conversation surrounding it, it's going to reveal something really important to me, which is that audiences are becoming far less willing to give Hollywood the benefit of the doubt anymore, not because they dislike change or oppose reinterpretations, but because trust has become one of the entertainment industry's scarcest resources these days, because they keep running out of it by their own free will. The only way Hollywood turns this thing around is simple, by telling stories so compelling and honest with respect that people will show up. That's what the classics did. They didn't win because they were loud. They won because they were unforgettable. But if you think calling me racist is going to make me cash in a ticket like IGN, you're just proving what I know about you already. That you are perfectly fine with digging your knees as deep as you can as long as Hollywood just keeps feeding you the slop. It's sad, it's pathetic, but it's not surprising. What do you think? Let me know. Subscribe if you'd like to. What do you think of the Odyssey? Are you going to see it or not? I'm not going to judge you for it. I just think Hollywood and places like IGN are so bullish that I'll eat their slop that it kind of disgusts me. If IGN bended their back appeasing Hollywood any more than they already did, they would turn into a human pretzel. No thanks. I guess I'm just not modern audience enough for this one.